So let's do something a little more interesting than hello world. One of the things you'll often need to do in an application is generate a range of random numbers. And JavaScript has a function for generating a random number, but it will generate a float between 0 and 1. What I want is to be able to specify the minimum and maximum and have an integer. And this isn't that hard to do. So if we look in this project, I've got a function called random range that takes a minimum and a maximum. And what it will do is it will return an integer within those bounds. So the first line here is just going to choose a random number from 0 up to 1. And this will be a floating point with 16 decimal places. So next, I'll compute the number of integers from the minimum to maximum range. And then I'll scale the range. The last line will offset the scaled number by the minimum, and then it will return the truncated decimal. So next I'll modify the test function to log several random numbers to the logging console. I'll select the test function and click run, and then look at the logs. And it looks like the function worked as expected. So this proves that the JavaScript standard library is included and that Google Apps Script is just JavaScript. Now actually it's most of JavaScript 1.6 along with parts of 1.7 and 1.8 according to the Google Apps Script documentation. However, I've yet to run into anything that I needed that wasn't supported. To see how the debugger works, I'll set a breakpoint like you would in other IDEs. Click on the number next to the line you want to break on. Now click the button with the bug icon for debug. The application will start and then pause after getting a random number with math.random. The debugger view will also open at the bottom of the window. Here we can see the values of all the variables in scope for the current context. We hit the breakpoint after the call to math.random, so the arguments to the function as well as random number have been assigned values. The variables range and num are in scope but do not have values assigned to them yet, as those lines have not run. We are in the loop from the test function and the counter variable I is not in scope, but if we click the test function in the call stack, we will see that I is in scope but range and num and other variables in random range are not. We are also able to step through code like you would in other debuggers. The step in, over, and out buttons, as well as a continue and stop debugging button, are visible when debugging. So I can click step over to see that range is now assigned a value, and then once more to see that num is assigned a value. And then I can click continue and it will run until the breakpoint is hit again in the next loop. So the debugger, as simple as it is, can come in quite handy, and we'll use it more in later lessons. So that finishes up the preliminaries. Next time we'll look at how to use Google Apps Script to create a web user interface.